Hey folks, welcome to Bear Mountain. Today we're working in the garden. We kind of got some weather heading towards us this week. We've had at least 4 or 5 days of pretty good day weather where our temperatures have been in the mid 50s to even to the mid 60s. And we've got some things that we got to get started for our early spring. Today is March 12th, so we're kind of getting to that transition period when we're moving away from winter and we're moving into spring. But we have some things that we have to get in the garden that have kind of, they're day length sensitive. So like we have to get the onions in and we have to get some of the cole crops in. The idea here is that the onions need a long period of time to grow vegetatively, get to good size before they start making bulbs. So we're gonna get those guys planted today. And then we're also gonna be planting our cole crops. We've got our spring kale, but for sure our broccoli, our cauliflower, and our cabbages. And those would be for blooming early, ready for harvest in early summer, so probably about mid-June. And so getting those guys in now while the weather is in good shape is something we want to do today. Okay, this bed here is kind of an interesting shape, but what we're going to do is with the worm tower off in the one corner, we're going to plant the rest of the bed with cabbage. This is my whole tray of cole type crops. I've got broccolis and cauliflower and some red Russian kale that we'll do for spring. Kind of like, just for picking the leaves off, because the kale is going to try to go to seed pretty fast. So it's not going to be as big as the overwintered stuff, but should give us some young and tender leaves. And then these cabbage here, their name is Tiara. And I've got a couple of 6-packs of these guys that we'll put in. Now, I've been, they're already pre-soaked and ready to go. Whoops. So what we're going to do is plant these guys on a spacing of probably, looks like it's going to be about 18-inch. These aren't, Tiara I don't think is a super huge head.
I tried to buy the cabbage that is the smallest head because there's only 2 of us.
Right.
And there used to be one that was really small, about the size of a large softball, but I can't seem to find that anymore.
What was that variety?
Perel.
Perel.
P-A-R-E-L. Perel. But I tried to find ones that are super small instead of something really big that, we can either make coleslaw or sauerkraut, but we don't need it in large quantities because it's just the 2 of us.
Yeah, well, we're going to make a lot more kraut this year, I think.
Pork
now these guys
and sauerkraut.
yeah. Not to be derogatory of my German heritage.
Both of our German heritage.
Yeah. So these guys, it's just the same process we use for planting. What we're trying to do is, get them buried, get the stem buried up to the first set of cotyledon or almost true leaves. And, again, wetting down your block ahead of time really makes these guys slide out a lot easier. Now, I'm probably gonna...
Do you have good roots?
Oh, yeah, the roots are really pretty good.
Yay.
I don't know if you can focus in on this here, but you can see that they're just getting started, so they haven't, wrapped around the plug that much. And I wanted to get these guys in as early as possible, so most of the root development will be in the ground instead of in a, the 6-pack. Let's see, that's good enough there.
But we had some cold nights recently.
Yeah, I think the weather forecast is kind of showing that
we might have been over it.
We might be through the worst of it. We might have some 30s.
We might be jinxing it.
Yeah, the big blizzard of 2022. Luckily, we're not encountering what the folks in the East Coast are. So, we'll probably fertilize these guys again a few more times. you know, once they start getting up and really rocking and rolling, I'm not going to, you know, over fertilize. I just want to get them to the point where they're well established. And so we used a bit of the Jadam fertilizer on them. And I think, you know, what I'm going to do is, this is cabbage, maybe I'm really planting it pretty intense. So the leaves should eventually, of the cabbage, will cover the entire bed and will keep the stems kind of cool and also prevent, you know, much weed germination in here too. You know what might be a good idea is maybe I just put a few cauliflower on around the other side.
That's a lot of cabbage.
That is a lot of cabbage.
It just comes on all at once.
Well, they will come on pretty close, you know, to the same time. I'm thinking, you know, like June-ish. That should do it. There's half the bed, and we can put some cauliflower on the outside. So where do you get these varieties? These varieties are all from Johnny's?
I believe that the cabbage is from Johnny's.
Okay.
I think even the cauliflower is too. So folks probably are going to ask, what is this pipe thing over the top?
Oh, the hoops?
Yeah.
That's just to suspend any kind of like netting or something. And we'll probably put some bird netting on it, because until these guys get a little bit bigger, to kind of prevent the cats from deciding this is a cool place to lay down. And then we got drip lines in here that'll, you know, we'll water if we need to be watering. So I think that'll work out pretty well, and we don't have to worry too much about trying to, you know, get the hose in there when the leaves.
Yeah, this bed grew a really nice selection of cucumbers last year.
Yeah.
It did really well. Yeah, so some of our beds are rectangular, some are square. There's a circle and a triangle and stuff. We're just trying to be creative.
Yeah, so creative in a, you know, a standard geometric fashion, right?
Yeah. Oh well.
Oh well. Okay, yeah, these guys should take off pretty good. Okay, so that's it for this bed. I've got, you know, plenty of more cole crops to go. So as I work them into different places here.
It's interesting now the sky has changed behind you. What was really sunny and stuff is starting to look wet.
Yeah, we've got rain coming. So
yeah.
I think the next thing just to talk about here briefly is this is going to be our onion bed. And it last year, I believe we had beans on here.
Yep.
And
then one year we also had cabbage on it.
Right. This is chicory. And what I've been doing is it just kind of came back on its own. And I've been just, you know, harvesting leaves off of it as I can for like salads and stuff. So they'll be finished here probably in another month once our weather starts to warm up. Okay, so the cabbage plants and the cauliflower, they were all wet when we put it in. The soil, even though it looks a little dry on the top, is really damp underneath. We got rain coming. I'm not going to bother with those guys other than just make sure I put some bird netting over it. So let me go get the onions and get that one started. All right, the onions we're going to plant, these are all our bulbing onions. And what we did, this variety is called Patterson. And we sowed these back in January. And we want to get these guys in the ground ASAP to get them to start to get some height and get some size before they go into bulbing. As soon as we get to that longest day, these guys will then they'll stop vegetatively growing and they'll start making their bulbs. We plant these guys in multi-packs, so when I seed into a cell, we put like about 4 to 5 seeds in a cell. Now, not all of them will germinate, but sometimes you get 5, sometimes you get 4, sometimes 3. But the idea is, since onions bulb shallow, these guys are going to grow away from each other as they get bigger. And so they'll actually fill out the bed looking pretty good from a lot of tops. At the bottoms, though, are going to be growing next to each other. And what we have found is we get nice size onions that are about the size of the palm of your hand for the most part. And you get a lot of productivity out of it. So as an example, a 6-pack here could have, well, I mean, in a perfect world, it could have almost 30 onions in it. But in reality, it's probably closer to about 20, somewhere between 15 and 20, because not all of them germinated. So anywho, we're going to plant these the same way we plant all the other guys. They've already been pre-soaked, ready to go. I've got drip lines on the bed in case we need to do any kind of watering. So it's all going to be watering from, basically either what we're going to get from the rain itself or from, our drip irrigation. And what I'm going to do is plant these guys fairly close at about 9 to 10 inches apart. And I'm going to do at least 5 rows across. And the compost on the bed doesn't really, it really does a good job of suppressing the weeds, and we don't necessarily end up with, much weeding to do at all. So the nice thing about this is the onions are already started. So they've kind of gone through most of their most vulnerable state when they were small, and they shouldn't require, like I said, any weeding in it. Or if they do, if you notice how I'm planting them, as I'm planting these guys in a very linear pattern, and although there's all kinds of different patterns to use, I find that if I do need to weed, I can easily take my collinear hoe and just go in between the plants, and that really makes things fast if I need to do it. Okay, so this will give me about 30, which is pretty close to half of a tray. And we got good roots, so we can see that they're already starting to develop. And it's the same idea. I'm going to plant these guys in, not super deep, but just enough to make sure I cover the bottom white of the plug. And planting actually goes pretty fast. And we'll protect these guys too with some netting. We haven't had too many pests on onions out here yet, so I'm not too worried about like onion. I think there's maggots and stuff like that affect the actual, get into the plant and then go down into the root. So far we've been blessed with not having that as an issue.
Just kitties.
Just cats or other animals deciding it's kind of a cool idea to chew on them or lay on them or whatever. So here's a classic example of a cell that didn't produce much. It's only got one, so I'm just going to pass on that guy.
So one of the indicators that it was time to get our onions in is our chives are growing.
Yeah. That and the wild onions.
Yeah.
When they start really rolling, then you go, okay.
Okay, it's time.
Yeah. nature has said it's time to go. So we can do quite a bit in this bed. Get pretty close to several hundred onions finished up once we go to harvest them in the usually in July. For us, they're finished. The tops will fall over by early July, and then a couple weeks of drying in the nice summer sun, or maybe not even that long, and then we put them away for storage. And this variety Patterson stores really well. Matter of fact, we're still eating on them. We've had very low loss to them rotting or anything like that. So,
but we're also going to dry them.
Yeah, that's another thought.
Dried onion powder and flakes.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a freeze dryer. We just use a regular dehydrator. But yeah, they'd freeze dry. I think you could make some really good stuff out of freeze drying
Mixes
it too.
And stuff. Now that's a big investment.
Yeah, you're talking about just for a small unit. By the time you get finished with everything, you probably got $5,000 into it. That's a lot of money. All right, we got the bed planted here, and it's pretty good because we're looking to the west and the rain is coming. So probably gonna have to kind of cut this short. And what I got in here is I've got 18 rows of 5 across. So I've got approximately 90 cells planted, and each cell has 3 probably onions in it. So if you look at it from that standpoint, it's somewhere around 270, 280 possible onions. Now, of course, not all of them will bulb up to a great size or stuff like that, but still we'll probably have at least 225, 230 good onions out of this small bed. This bed is approximately 9 feet by about 3.5 foot wide. So what it shows is that you can get a lot out of a small area. The chicory will be finished in another month, and so that won't even be here. So by the time these things are growing up and getting to good size, that'll be gone. And this really works out pretty good. And I got another bed to do, so so we'll have a lot of good onions for this season. Plus I still have shallots to plant too. So we got a lot of alliums and a lot of brassicas starting out the season here. So I guess while the rain is going to be coming down, we'll go back to the greenhouse and start our work for next week. So, yeah. Any thoughts?
No, just kind of excited about getting stuff in the garden.
Yeah, it is nice to see spring, isn't it? I mean, sort of crazy cats. And walking right through the bed. Come on, you can walk. Don't walk on. No, you just had to do it. Yeah, okay. So anyway, folks, have a good week. Stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.